This is it, ladies and gentlemen. It took us 6 videos of blood, sweat and tears to get here, but here we are. One last time. Hi, I'm Amon, and I tried beating the Warcraft 3 Scourge campaign without building anything. We've been over the rules 6 times already, but let's do it one more time. I can't build any units, I can't build any buildings, and I can't recruit any mercenaries. So what I start the level with is all I'm going to get. And I have to play on the hardest difficulty, of course. What could go wrong? The past 6 campaigns have been a real mix of trial and error, desperation, and cheese. And all those are going to be present in this campaign, but on a much grander scale. So, let's begin.
Whaddya Buyin?
And let's start the challenge with by far the hardest and most hectic mission 1 in the entire game. There is no hand-holding here like in the other campaigns. There is just total chaos. I had to be really quick here, so I'll give you a brief rundown before all hell breaks loose. I start on 3 sides of the map, and I have to kill all the towns without letting 20 townfolks escape. And the first thing I did was buy a bunch of items for all 3 of my heroes on this map, since I'm kindly given unlimited funds. None of which I can use to make units. First we have Arthas's Corner with 2 ghouls and abominations, which are really strong, but they also get hit the hardest. Then we have Sylvanas with 2 ghouls and 4 banshees, but those banshees will only be used to possess the strong militia captains that attack here. After that she will be able to hold her own, and I won't have to do much with her until the end of the level. Possession is allowed since I am getting a unit without actually building it. My opponent built it for me. And there's gonna be a lot of stealing units throughout this campaign. And we also have Kel'Thuzad, who has 2 ghouls and 2 necromancers. The attacks get increasingly stronger with time, so I had to efficiently use the free time I had in the beginning of the level before the real craziness starts. The first thing Arthas did was buy Boots of Speed. And he used them to get to Kel'Thuzad's part of the map through the huge base in the middle. Then Kel'Thuzad attacked a random building, which triggered one of the problems on this mission. There are paladins in the middle who teleport to the town that is being threatened. And when one of them starts teleporting, I just run away so he won't be able to use it when the town is actually about to get attacked. Then Arthas came to his side and he used his ultimate, Death and Decay, on a group of 3 houses in the town. Death and Decay deals percentage-based damage, so if I manage to survive for about 30 seconds, the houses will die. And once the houses die, the town will be considered disabled since all units spawn from there. To keep Kel'Thuzad alive while channeling, Arthas used his Death Coil ability, which restores 600 health to undead units, which is more than enough to sustain him during his spell. And that was it. The first town is down, 8 more to go. Since Death and Decay has a huge cooldown, I couldn't afford to idle during that time since I would eventually get overwhelmed. So I used my time to attack the northern town with Arthas and Kel'Thuzad. They are both level 10 heroes and are insanely strong, so I was able to use them to take out a bunch of defenders. Then I used Arthas's ultimate to revive them, and then I went after the houses. A paladin did manage to teleport, but I just sniped the objective and I ran away. In the meantime, a couple of villagers managed to escape on Arthas's side since it gets hit like a truck, and my guys aren't enough to keep it alive. So in order not to lose all my defenders here, I told them to take out the weaker guys and then let the stronger guys escape, and so lived to fight another day. The last northern village was defended by a bunch of mages and water elementals. But the tried and true tactic from the first village still works. It was a bit closer here, but it still works. And then my mortally wounded heroes had to move through the middle and get to Arthas's side next. Since one lane was disabled, I really thought the worst was behind me. But turns out the disabled lane is going to give me one last how do you do before being actually disabled. Turns out there were 2 waves of enemies still in the lane when I destroyed the town, so they basically crushed my 2 ghouls and necromancers, who put on a really good fight before they died. They managed to kill just enough stuff for the escape counter to get to 19, which means I couldn't let a single enemy escape anymore. Time to put on my game face. When Arthas and Kel'Thuzad came down, there was only 1 abomination left, but now it is really going to get easier. I again attacked the house in the enemy village, and the paladin teleported again, and I again escaped and then used my Death and Decay to clear the village. 5 more to go. I went for the same approach in the next village, and it was really hard to keep Kel'Thuzad alive in that one because the enemy has a bunch of units there. But I did it. And in the last village, the paladin didn't even teleport to help, so I took it down and that was it. 1 more side left. Oh, and fun fact, you can use Death and Decay in the Fog of War, so I managed to take out one of the remaining towns from the other side. Work smarter, not harder. The next village was also Death and Decayed, and for the last one I gathered all my guys and we took it down together. No more villagers will be able to escape. Now for the easier part. I have to destroy 3 altars in the middle. But before that, I had to do some preparation for the future. Turns out there is a little kid who sells ice revenants in the north. And those are quite expensive, but they summon a super powerful ice revenant for 3 minutes. And since I have basically infinite money, I bought 20 ice revenants and I gave them to Sylvanas, while Arthas took 3 goblin landmines from Kel'Thuzad and Sylvanas, which they started the level with, which brings him to 9 mines. Oh, the beautiful slaughter we will be doing with those. And in the end, he bought 20 more ice revenants for himself. I literally spent 40,000 gold on ice revenants on this level. Looks like Little Timmy here is gonna have to change his name to Richie Rich at some point. Anyways, turns out the 3 altars I needed to kill were all close together, so I used the Death and Decay and healing tactic one last time on this level, but also in the campaign, since Kel'Thuzad will be replaced with a giant bugman as Arthas' sidekick in this campaign. And that was it. One of the craziest missions I've ever had to deal with so far, and it's only mission 1.
It's a door! Use it!
That's a door?
The next mission is a no-build mission, so there isn't much to talk about here. I collected as many tomes as I can to get some permanent stat boost, and in case you haven't skipped ahead to the next mission, here's also a fun fact for you. Did you know you can use your meat wagons to attack into the last boss arena and bait everyone inside to come after you? Well, turns out you can. And also turns out the enemy is too dumb to use this door to get to the other side, so you can just take them out with your ranged stuff without ever setting foot into this arena. Fun stuff. The next mission has us play with Sylvanas. It also has us play with 4 banshees, 2 ghouls, and an obsidian statue. And I'm supposed to beat one of the strongest bases in the game with that. Looks like I have my work cut out for me. Thankfully, Sylvanas can unlock her ultimate on this level, Charm. And this ability has Sylvanas use her Charm and her other useful attributes to persuade enemies to follow her into bed. I mean, join her cause. The problem here is that I start on level 4. However, I used my 4 banshees to possess 4 abominations from the initial enemy attack wave, and I thought those were gonna be enough for me to hang on until level 6. Unfortunately, I was very wrong. You see, for whatever reason, Sylvanas, despite having incredible attributes and a lot of practice doing what she likes in the bedroom, I mean the battlefield, takes ages to level up. And when I say ages, I mean ages. So many attack waves came, and it took me years to perfectly micro in every single one of them to not lose anyone. And she still, after 15 minutes, didn't manage to reach level 6. And the attack waves are getting stronger and stronger. I even killed a couple of neutral camps between the attack waves to farm more experience, but it still wasn't enough. And I died to a huge attack wave. So with the knowledge that it's gonna take her forever to get to level 6, I went back to the drawing board. You see, there are two minion commanders on this level, a human one and an ogre one. And if I get them to fight for me, their whole massive camps will as well. And my plan was to use Sylvanas on level 6 to easily persuade them. But persuasions can be done in other ways as well. I first went to the middle of the map and I captured 3 abominations from the initial attack wave. And I left one special banshee called Charlindra alive. Then I used my guys to bust through the first guy's camp, and I tanked just enough damage to let Charlindra possess him, giving this huge army of units to my cause. Sylvanas wanted to charm this handsome commander and his horse in the bedroom herself, but desperate times, desperate measures. And when I saw this huge bunch of units in my base, I was sure I would be able to get to level 6 without any problems. And I was right. These guys mowed through everything the enemy sent after me. I just had to make sure as few of them die as possible, since I will need them in the final battle. Then I used my army to get to a mana fountain and charm a frostworm, who I then used to destroy a bunch of rocks guarding the ogre commander. Then I went in with Sylvanas and she was successfully penetrated charmed by the ogre, and she became a very experienced elf woman now. And now I had 2 huge armies ready to attack the enemy main base. And with this amount of units, I was sure it would be an easy bust. But the enemy main base turned out to be insanely well guarded. They have a bunch of abominations, meat wagons and necromancers, which are the most annoying undead units to have to deal with. Plus, to add to the annoyance, the enemy hero loves spamming the most annoying spell in the game, Sleep, which makes my units unable to do anything unless I attack them. And since there is so much happening, it's really hard to identify who even needs waking up. But alright, once the Dreadlord died, we managed to start attacking the enemy production buildings with the few units I have remaining. The problem is that while all this is happening, my base is being attacked by a purple attack wave. So this turned this level into a base race, where I had to destroy the enemy base before I lose all my buildings. Thankfully, I was fast enough, and I managed to take them out just as they were about to destroy my final building. And as annoying as the vampire guy was with his sleep spell, Sylvanas never took a vampire guy to bed and wanted to see what it's like. So she managed to charm him to join her cause as well. And soon you'll see the true power of the sleep spell. After replacing my Death and Decay Lich with the Undead Spider Companion, it was time for some Norse Arthas adventures again. The game wants me to take out the enemy forward base and establish my own base there, but I have other plans. I put all my guys into a couple of boats and we went further down the river, where we found a nice shore that is only slightly infested with a bunch of dragons. And as responsible members of the community, it was our duty to clear those dragons out. In charge was a huge dragon, defended by 2 slightly smaller but still huge dragons. Thankfully, my spiders have enough webs to take them down to the ground, and Arthas has enough heals to heal anybody who is being attacked. And the spider companion? Well, he is also trying to do things. And after clearing out the infestation, I rewarded myself with a new pet dragon. A pet dragon who is insanely strong and will be a huge help on this mission. Then I proceeded to move down the river, where I found a huge Naga base. And once the Naga Royal Guards started using their wave abilities, old wounds started to reopen. So I went away from them as far as possible, and I entered the cave that I need to clear. Once you move far enough into it, the Naga will stop chasing you. And since I don't have a base yet, I will never get attacked by attack waves, so I can take my sweet time here. On my way to the end of the level, I found a dancing penguin, I guess, and he was kind enough to give me a ring of protection. It ain't much, but it's honest work. Then I cleared the last room of enemies, and it was time to see what Sylvanas is up to again.
Wakey, wakey.
The vampire guy used a sleep spell so strong that he managed to get the entire map to fall asleep. So I'm able to do whatever I want here until the morning. And what I want to do is try to destroy both enemy bases before the morning, despite the game giving its best to only give me enough time to destroy one of them. First, I decided to attack the human base, because humans are really annoying to deal with. And after capturing a couple of mortar teams along the way, I had enough siege power to start taking out the upper base. I even managed to charm a couple of sleeping knights to help me. I'm sure some might argue at the legality of taking advantage of someone while they are asleep, but it's not really illegal if a hot chick does it, right? I'm sure the guys wouldn't argue with what she's doing to them if they were actually awake. And having dealt with the morality of Sylvanas people while they're asleep, I was able to clear the whole upper base. But then I arrived at the second base, and there I found a big knight named Garifas. And he basically slaughtered all my units. I just didn't have enough stuff or time to deal with him and his friends. So on my second attempt, I went after the undead base, to try and charm the stronger units there to bolster my forces. And that went really well. I microed the units that I had with solid success, I charmed a couple of strong units like Abominations and a Frostworm, and in preparation for the boss fight with the enemy Dreadlord there, I used up a couple of Revenant shards to summon Ice Revenants and help me with the fight. And he fell rather quickly after that. Then I had enough stuff to go after Garifas. And in the base I only left a couple of mortar teams to clear out the enemy buildings, since I took care of their defenders. And this time Garifas was no problem for me. I managed to silence him, and that prevented him from using his ultimate and other abilities, and I quickly took him down after that. Then I took out a couple of buildings, but daylight has arrived, and the enemy base woke up and started producing units. They made a couple of units to attack my main base, but it wasn't too much, and my acolytes managed to out-repair them. In the meantime, I managed to destroy all production buildings in the big base, and there was just a smaller base to the north left. And for that one, I used a couple more Revenant shards to help me since I was quite low on units. Something else that helped me was my Dreadlord's ultimate, which infests a unit and makes it spawn a really strong Doom Guard when it dies. So that also helped me with busting the base. And in the end, I managed to take out every enemy production structures with only 3 units remaining. But those were enough to finish the level with. First I took out every remaining building in the undead base, and then I took out the human based buildings as well. And that was it. In the end, Sylvanas was so impressed at how big Garifas' horse is that she decided to charm him as well. And now it's time to fight one of the strongest undead bases in the game. This mission starts us off with 2 bases, one belonging to the undead and one belonging to Garifas. First I use the Scroll of Town portal to get to the human base and immediately move north to rescue my stranded dwarf friends. But while the rest of the guys were moving north, Sylvanas actually took a peek into the enemy base, because right next to the entrance there was a Frostworm, which she charmed with her charming attributes that not even dragons are immune to. And she can escape with the dragon to the nearby healing fountain without any problem. You can probably see where this is going, right? But first I used my remaining guys to free the northern dwarves, and I brought everyone back to the human base. And since Sylvanas' charm only has 40 seconds of cooldown, that means that about every 40 seconds I can claim another Frostworm for myself. That's 7 supply for basically free. After I captured 5 Frostworms, I send my Dreadlord with them to the top, and the 6 of them are able to protect the town from any attack waves, while Sylvanas is farming more dragons. The human base is protected by this ginormous clump of units, and there is no way in hell any attack wave can do any real damage to it. At one point, the top was attacked by the enemy Dreadlord, who has this perfectly balanced and not broken at all ability of spawning 5 Infernals from nothing. So these guys almost managed to take down my Dreadlord and his dragons. But with some good microing, I was able to survive this. Then I used my scroll to teleport to the human base and get to the healing fountain to heal up. In the meantime, Sylvanas managed to charm a couple more dragons to her side, so I decided it was time to attack. I selected everything that I have and I started attacking the middle base. I even kept spawning Ice Revenants to help me clear as much as possible. And it looked like it was going to be touch and go for a while, but in the end I managed to take down the enemy defenders. I only had to clear the enemy buildings now. But to keep things interesting, both of my bases started getting attacked. So once again, I had to finish the level as soon as possible. And once again, I managed to do it with just a couple buildings remaining in both bases. And yeah, this is it with Sylvanas' journey for this campaign. In the end, her lover Dreadlord was so jealous of her other lovers that he killed them both. And Sylvanas found that so hot that she didn't want to take up any other lover other than him. And they lived happily ever after. The end. Blizzard felt pretty comfortable with their level design so far, that they went with something unheard of in the RTS scene. They put 3 no-build missions back to back. Which is actually pretty great for me, because I can take a short breather from everything and just play some Warcraft. Of course, I collected all the tomes and powerful items that would help me in the final mission, but I also randomly found an alien who has been lying here since the beginning of time, as one does. And I killed this poor alien creature because, God forbid, something that looks so grotesque actually turns out to be a nice alien who can help me claim the Frozen Throne. Blizzard didn't even give it a chance. And after that, it was time for the grand finale of our No Production series.
That's a bit of a minefield out there.
America's cultural contribution. 1 million landmines.
When I was starting this campaign, I thought this last level was going to be the easiest one I will have to deal with. Despite this level being insanely hard on a regular playthrough, there is a little bug you can exploit where you can drop the frames down to insanely low, and then you have a tiny moment where you can actually teleport Arthas to your town hall with a Scroll of Town portal to completely trivialize the process of defending Arthas while he is capturing the obelisk from the bottom of his town hall. Unfortunately, there is a slight problem with that strategy in this run. I have no Scrolls of Town portal and no way to get one. Turns out, not a single level where you play as Arthas has a Scroll of Town portal lying on the map, or a pre-built Tome of Relics or an item shop where I can buy one. There was a Tome of Relics on the first mission, but there were no scrolls to buy in that one. So I had to actually think of a different way to beat this level without playing it for more than 5 minutes, because the enemy attack waves they send on this mission are completely insane, and that's putting it mildly. So one last time, it was time to resort to cheese. That's what all the item hoarding has been here for. I have 20 Ice Revenants and 9 Goblin Landmines, and I will be using every single one of them in order to make this happen in 5 minutes. When I started the level, I immediately started going north, to the obelisk that Illidan usually claims right away. And on my way there, I started spawning Ice Revenants, which last 3 minutes, so they are still going to be there for the big fight. And this way I can have 3 of them per hero instead of just 1 that I spawn when I arrive. As it turns out, Illidan doesn't spawn next to the North Obelisk. He instead needs 1 minute to get there with his huge army. And 1 minute is enough for me to plant a bunch of mines on his way there to make his morning as crappy as possible. And with my Spider-Man companion using his ultimate to deal huge area damage around him, he managed to put real hurt on him and his friends alongside my starting forces, and the huge amount of Ice Revenants that I had by then. And once Illidan fell, I felt pretty comfortable my guys can finish off the rest of the stragglers. So I quickly started claiming the obelisk to finish this as soon as possible. And turns out that this is actually a queue for every single Naga that is nearby to start attacking me. And they are led by Mr. Naga Royal Guard himself. And he completely obliterated me in a couple of hits. So in my next attempt, I had to lose precious seconds to kill everyone, and only then was I able to claim the obelisk. Then I left a couple of revenants there, while I went with Arthas to the second obelisk. The other obelisks are defended by a bunch of neutral camps, which are so much easier to deal with than the fish people. I rushed in with Arthas while my spider companion distracted the guards. And while I was doing my thing, something very interesting happened. Illidan appeared in the north, but he was all alone.
I've been alone for 10,000.
I guess he isn't scripted to come with guards, instead they come separately from him. So my 5 chaos damage dealing ice revenants actually made short work of him. I then proceeded to the south obelisk, and I went with the same approach. Spider-Man baited while Arthas rushed in. Oh, and one more thing. For whatever reason, the defenders here don't have high ground vision of the thing they are defending. So once they return to their position, they won't even notice a guy claiming the obelisk right behind them. Thank you, Blizzard. For the last shard, I had to conjure up my own distraction in form of a Ice Revenant, who distracted the boys while I was doing my thing up there. Illidan came one more time alone, so we killed him once again for good measure. And now nothing was able to stop me. And while I was sitting there waiting for the final obelisk to activate, I thought about how I managed to get here. The reason why I managed to beat this campaign wasn't my skill. It wasn't even the landmines or any kind of RNG. The reason why I managed to beat this campaign was Little Timmy. Little Timmy, who sold me 40 Ice Revenants on the first level, which I used to beat all the hard levels in this campaign. Thank you, Little Timmy. Without you, this wouldn't have been possible. And that was it. I won. Wow, what a series this has been. We had everything from levels that were relatively easy and cheesy to levels that were downright almost impossible. From levels where I start with a couple of units to levels where I start with nothing but my heroes. But I managed to do it all. I managed to beat the whole game, the whole 7 campaigns, without building a single unit, building, or mercenary, and on the hardest difficulty. And yeah, what else is there to say except a huge thank you to everyone for watching. Especially the guys who eagerly watched every single video in this series, I really appreciate it. And as a thank you to anyone who loved this series or who maybe wants to see all my strategies in one video, I will be doing a tier list with every single no production missions that I have done, which I'm sure will be a nice trip down memory lane and not at all a tribute to my misery, especially once I get to the Sentinels campaign. But alright. For anyone who wants to see more of my Warcraft 3 content, there is an ongoing series where I try to beat the game with workers only. And honestly, if you thought no production makes me miserable, just check out the Acolytes only video, and the total of 25 hours I spent trying to beat it with Acolytes only. But okay, that's all from me today. Thank you for watching, let me know if you liked the video, subscribe if you want to see more of my content, and I'll see you in the next challenge.